friends. You are watching Unwritten Rules of the Road. I am Tosh. I am joined today by my amazing friend, Adam Smith. I met Adam originally in Albuquerque. He was running our sound at the Moonlight Lounge. That was our first show in Albuquerque for Alice. And just instantly, just kindred spirits. He was amazing. He was sharing his journey with his band Crushed at the time, and sharing like what it was like to actually tour in Europe as a DIY band. He also ran a DIY how do I describe it? Like how do I describe Fly Honey Warehouse? Like
I would say like a DIY venue, but it was like a house venue. It's kind of like
yeah,
hybrid, you know.
yeah,
It was a one car garage in the backyard, so
yeah.
kind of both.
Which is awesome. Fast forward, uh Adam, we would run into Adam at like different shows. Like we played at Inside Out where Adam worked as well. And then we played in San Francisco, and Steve couldn't set up his drums. He had something else going on. And Adam was living in San Francisco. And I was like, Adam, I'm like, is there any way that maybe you could help us set up the drums? And Adam was amazing. He had a video that he had taken of Steve playing electrical. So not only set up the drums perfectly, actually sound checked and played the drums. He is you play like all the instruments. Like for your band, Stars Don't Cry, you sing and play guitar. But I was like, I had no idea that you played drums. So
Yeah, the first I guess demo or just recording of Stars Don't Mean Anything. I recorded everything. It was like a quarantine like fever dream project. It was like 2 weeks of just like manically recording everything in the garage. And now it's a full band. We've been touring more often, and we get writing from other members, so it's nice.
so how many are you four piece now or
Yes, four piece. Yeah,
yeah.
we've had we were on like our 15th or 16th lineup because it's how it goes.
Yep, yep, I feel you.
Um, but we just did a 2 week tour, 8 shows in the Midwest to record our new record that'll hopefully be coming out this year. And yeah, we were a four piece, and we have something coming up, and I think we're gonna keep the same lineup. So hopefully, we got our lineup and we'll stick with it.
That's awesome. So are you do you have like an idea of when the album is going to come out? Or are you kind of figuring that out?
Basically, it's just when when mixing's done, mastering, and then we can send it for records to get pressed. And
Yeah.
so just that process.
Yeah, yeah.
Thankfully, it doesn't take as long as it did like 2021 to press records. So we're hoping late summer, maybe fall, just depending on how quick we get everything finished.
Awesome. Well, is this the first tour that you've done this year, or how many have you already done?
Yes, this is the first
Okay.
one so far. Yeah.
Because I feel like every time I talk to you, like you're always on tour or coming back from tour, like last year, for instance. Like, do you have a rough idea of like how many weeks you were out on the road?
Um, I'm not let me think. So Stars did 1 week, two, three. We Stars did probably 6 or 7 weeks of touring last year, but I drive for tours, I tour manage, book tours occasionally. And so altogether I probably was on the road for 3 to 4 months last year, which I kind of haven't really thought about. So that's pretty crazy thinking about now. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's definitely the most touring I've done in a single year.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy how it adds up. You don't I think when you're in tour mode, everything is time is fluid. So
Yeah.
there's sort of like the before tour, the during tour, the after tour,
Hmm.
and then you're like, how did the year just go by? So, yeah.
Totally, especially when you have tours so close together. Like, it's just like you get back from one tour and you're just working on the next tour, or you're on tour and you're working on the next tour, which I know you have experience with,
Oh yeah.
all the
Yeah.
booking and everything.
Yeah.
Hmm.
How many like what is the longest tour that you've been on consecutively?
So my old band Crushed, we did a full US tour. We had like a 5 day break home in Albuquerque, and we released a record in between, but we did 4 or 5 weeks from Southern California all the way to Albany, New York, and back. We went through the South and through the Midwest, and that was with a band called Post Nothing, that are good friends of ours. And then we were home for like the 5 days, and then we right after that immediately went to LA, picked up a band from Japan called Camellia, and did a tour with them up to Vancouver, Canada, and then back down the Rockies. And so that was, I think that second part of the tour was about 4 weeks, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And so, if you put those together, I know a 5 day break, but it's still like, we were home for just a second.
Yeah.
That's probably the longest tour I've been on, those 2 months.
So, for somebody that's first starting to tour, like, I mean, I guess this is kind of a two-part question, but like, what was your very first tour? And like, what would you advise somebody that's going out on the road for the first time? Because I feel like you have to build your stamina, right, to get to that point that you can go out for that long.
Oh yeah, like I've seen bands honestly book like month-long tours, but it's like real risky because you don't even know if you really like the people you're touring with that much to be with them in a van for a month, if you haven't done it before. What I always recommend bands and friends that ask is like start with the weekenders, like
Mhm.
book in Albuquerque, our closest cities were like Phoenix and Denver, El Paso, Texas, but there's some gnarly drives there. So I would tell people, go play Denver, Laramie, Wyoming, Colorado Springs, and then come back home. That way it's really low risk. It's just a quick weekender tour. You could do Phoenix, Tucson, El Paso, come back home. Um, our first tour in Crushed was similar to that. I'm pretty sure we just did Colorado Springs, Denver. I think Santa Fe or like Las Vegas, New Mexico. We had some random other um show in there. But besides that, my first long and like big tour was with Crushed in Japan in 2017, which is kind of insane. I don't know why we did that, but it was really fun.
That's amazing. Like, how did that happen? Was that your first international tour, or did you guys tour abroad
Yeah.
before? Wow.
Yeah, that was our first international tour. So we made friends with someone named Ken Minami. Um he's in a band called Bosco Mujo, and I can't recall his new band, but he's been playing solo lately. And he's all over the East Coast. He lives in Philadelphia right now, or maybe Virginia. And he's from Japan, and he moved to the United States. He immigrated here, and we just talked to him about it. And he's like, "Oh, I'll help you book a Japanese tour." And we were like, "Okay." So we took care of finances and did all that, and then he got us like 6 or 7 shows in Japan. And so we flew over there, did 2 weeks, had a lot of off days to enjoy Japan, and then came back. So.
That's amazing. I mean, I know logistically it's so different when you have to fly. So did you manage to get gear like over there, or did you fly your gear when you did that?
So I love Japan for this. Every club has an amazing backline, even cymbals and pedal. So
Wow.
we had to just bring a kick pedal because we used a double kick pedal, pedals for guitar and bass, our actual instruments, guitars and basses, and then I think just like drumsticks. That was it. And
Wow.
we took the Shinkansen, the bullet train, while we were there, and it was pretty hectic, like just running around with all of our luggage, merch strewn about, and like all of our guitars. It's probably easier if you rent a van. You can have like a little home base and somewhere to put everything. Um, but yeah, it still was super easy. I kind of wish more venues here in the United States would have at least a bass amp and a drum shells, something like that. It would make everyone's life a lot easier.
Yeah, for sure. It makes such a difference. It really does. Like we're about to do some dates in May. And we a lot of the band is flying to do those dates. Scott and I are going to be driving there and back and doing acoustic sets, but some of the band is flying out, so I'm having to like sort of ask people like, is there any way that we could have a back line? And I'm used to
Yeah.
just us having our gear with us. So it's definitely a game changer when you actually have a back line for sure.
No, totally. Yeah. Honestly, the last few tours we've been doing, more bands have been open for backlining, which is nice compared to like I want to say pre-pandemic, everyone always wanted to use their own stuff. And I'm cool with that, but like whenever a show's behind and whenever it takes a while or someone just has so many like drums or cymbals or whatever, it's that's when it gets a little like dicey. I don't know. That's probably just the show organizer in me. I'm kind
Yes.
of like, 15 minutes, let's go. Don't take your cymbals off on stage. Like, let's go, get it off. But yeah,
Actually,
nowadays everyone really is open to backlining, so I like that.
Um, real quick, I just wanted to say hi to everyone. Thank y'all so much for popping in. Hello to Jess and Doug and Sean and XRL7 and Don. Thank you so much for joining us and hanging out with my amazing friend Adam. Hello to Kali and Ravenloft as well. Um, I wanted to ask because you brought something up that I love that you brought this up that you have like the show organizer in you. Um, so these are some unwritten rules. Like, what are things that you would like to see bands do when they're sharing a stage? Because sometimes it can be like a lot of bands, right, in one night that you're trying to fit in. So what are some tips and tricks for somebody to be like aware of?
Backlining cabs is probably the biggest thing. If you're a big band, you have like half stacks, bass amps like that. If you can just have less amps on stage, that usually helps a lot. Um, the drummer of my band, Sasha, he's really good at staging his drums or at least his like breakables before we play. So, off to the side of the stage or in a green room, wherever space we have, he'll, get all his cymbals perfect. And then that way he can just walk on, put him where he is on the drum set, kind of move the drum set a little bit. He's done. And so I think just like staging, just planning ahead, saving space, being efficient with like how much space you get because sometimes you're playing like a corner stage or a basement or any type of stage where it's just like you got to like kind of approach it differently. And along with that, I would say just be mindful of venue staff, be mindful of the other bands, kind of just pay attention, don't be so aloof that like you're kind of gonna make the show drag or kind of, I don't know, just get in the way. But once again, yeah, I've gotten to the point where even on tour, I'll start like moving stuff and like just telling people what to do because I'm like, no, don't put your amps in front of the drummer. He won't hear you. Like if there's a monitor, it's like you need to put them behind because your set will suck if you do that. So I've just gotten to the point where I don't know. I just started doing that. Probably pissing some people off, but mm.
I think it's awesome because I mean, honestly, it's some things that people might not know. Like, these are things that, if they're new to it, they might not be aware that things like setting the amps up in behind is something that's really helpful.
Totally, yeah. And I think when I do sound engineering too, I keep that in mind. I've worked with a lot of new bands or newer bands, and I remember when I was young in like my first shows, and I wish people would have just told me something that it took me years to find out. One
Yeah.
is like the whole cable through your guitar strap. I didn't find that out for I swear years, and I broke so many guitars because I would just step on the cable and it would rip out the input jack. And then finally, I think I either saw a band do that or finally a touring band was like, "Hey, dude, do this," and I was like, "Oh my god, you're a genius!" That saved like all these repairs. So
Okay, I'm not a guitar player. Can you walk me through this? Like what is
so
this?
like if you have your cable, I have a wireless system, so it's a little different. But if you have your cable hanging like right here, and it's just hanging straight to the floor, then when you're like playing, you could step on your cable and it'll just like bend it and rip out your jack, depending, or at least like unplug your guitar. And so,
Yeah.
what I do, or like what everyone does, is you put it through your strap. That way, there's like a little bit of that leverage. So if you do step on it, it's gonna pull on the strap, and it'll prevent that from happening.
Okay, yeah, that's not something I would have known. That's awesome. I
it's
love
like
it.
it's like one of those things. I think when you find out, it's so obvious. But like I do still see some bands do that like occasionally, especially like hardcore bands or any energetic bands where they're moving around a lot. I'm like, whoa, 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 like just do this because
Yeah.
I've been there, you know.
Yeah. Well, I gotta ask, is guitar your first instrument or what is your first instrument?
Yes, guitar is my first. I took classical guitar in middle school up until junior year of high school. I picked up drums and xylophone in marching band, and so I was on drumline, um, and then xylophone taught me piano. So kind of just that's like how I learned that scale and all of that.
Yeah.
And from there, started playing drum set. I think Rock Band, the video game, was what got me into drumming. So um, yeah, and then I kind of taught myself saxophone a little bit, but it's been a while. I don't have a saxophone, so I can probably just make a few noises, but nothing, can't play a tune or anything.
That's not an easy instrument. I tried to do it and I was like, "Oh, this is a whole different beast." So, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, the whole mouth shapes, like in trombone and trumpet too. I'm like, I don't know. I prefer string instruments.
Yeah. Yeah. So, are you is Stars Don't Mean Anything your main project, or are there any other things that you're working on?
Yeah, that's my main project. We're planning on just like hitting it hard with touring. As soon as we release the record, we want to do like a full US tour and kind of hit everywhere we can in the States. And then hopefully next year go overseas, see what everything's looking like. I did join a band that I toured with last year, just as a driver. I'm drumming in a band called Future Kill here in San Francisco, and I might start, maybe like one other band just to keep my time, keep me busy. Because
Yeah.
Stars Don't Mean Anything, all of our members are in different cities. We're one
Yeah.
of those bands, so we don't get to rehearse as much. We only really will rehearse once. Like we'll have a day in a studio before a tour, and just like hope everyone kind of was working through everything, and then hash it out, and then we start our tour and go from there.
Yeah. Yeah, we're kind of similar. We're kind of spread out ourselves, and so you just kind of have to I trust everybody does their homework, and then you come
Mhm.
together and you play together, and then it's actually I feel like when you're on the road that it's like you really get tour tight,
Oh
and you really find that rhythm.
That's what we played 5 shows this last tour in February before we went into the studio and recorded, just so we could get that like tour tightness, and kind of see if we needed to change anything about the song, see how they flow, how the crowd like interacts, or you know. Luckily, everything went smooth and we didn't ended up changing too much besides like some interludes and stuff. But yeah, I that tour tightness feels so good.
Oh, it does. There's nothing like it. It's kind of hard to come home for many reasons, but especially that where you're like, oh, I just love being tour tight.
I know we'll play like shorter tours sometimes, and it's like, dang, we were just getting our groove,
Yeah.
like we did the 8 shows this last time, and I feel like by our last show we were like, wow, damn, I wish we had another like 2 weeks because where we finally started playing really, really well.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I've seen a really beautiful write-up that you had when you were saying goodbye to Albuquerque, and the community there. And I wanted to ask, like, what was your first live show? Like, as an artist, like, what was your first live show, and what was that like?
My first concert was Iron Maiden in 2007. Um, my first like DIY show or like smaller show was a house show in Belen, New Mexico, which is like a tiny town south of Albuquerque I grew up in. They did this thing called Fest where they just had like the 6 local bands play in a living room. And I saw this band driven by Malice, this metal band. And I remember I was just kind of front and center just as a little kid. And I think I was in 8th grade, maybe ninth grade. And and I was just like watching them super stoked. And like some dude just came and pushed me starting the mosh pit. And I swear I went horizontal in the air. like flying, and then everyone started moshing, and so that was the first, I guess, like like DIY smaller show I went to, and then from there we thought like, wow, we can book shows like this, and so we did a lot of research. I remember being a kid and looking up how to throw a house party because I didn't really know, it was like innocent. Um, and from there, we started doing house shows in Belen. Eventually moved up to Albuquerque and moved into Fly Honey Warehouse in 2015 and started doing shows there almost immediately after moving in. And that ran for 8 years.
Wow, that's amazing. I know that it's like, in all of my interactions with you, you are always so generous and kind and giving. Like anytime I've come to you where I'm like, okay, Adam, I'm having a little trouble in this city. Do you know anybody? And you just like this wealth of knowledge. And you're always so happy to share that. I mean, I feel like, I mean, I don't know all of the different DIY communities throughout the US, but I know you in particular. I feel like, would you say that's like kind of the ethos in the DIY community?
Yeah, honestly, like the DIY community for sure, it kind of just like everything. There's no room for competition. It's already hard
Yeah,
enough being a musician, being an artist. Like, we don't need to be fighting each other. We're already fighting an industry. We're already fighting you know, um, just everything how it is here in America. I like to think Europe is better. Maybe someone from Europe can educate me on that. But they get grants and stuff to tour. Out here,
yeah,
we have to work 2, 3 jobs and then quit them to go on tour and then get them again. Like
yeah,
unless you're blessed and you have a job that allows you to tour, you take your PTO. It's really rough for artists out here. But yeah, I just like to help people. I think I'm always down to help people for any reason. Anyone can hit me up for anything, even if we hardly talk. And uh, information's easy, like me just saying, "Oh, I can't help you. I don't know," or like at least I can give you contacts. I can't always like book the show or do everything for people, but I like to at least give leads.
yeah. Yeah, same here. I'm a part of the DIY tour postings group on Facebook. And I think I've seen your name on there as well. And that's just something I noticed about the community in general was just how helpful everyone was. It's like, just and then in every genre, honestly. Because we all play in different genres. And really I've seen that people as a whole are like very helpful where they're like, okay, let's help each other out and you know, um and across genres too. Like it's really fun when we do like multi-genre shows.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, just from running venues and everything, I have friends across every genre, every area. It's really interesting because it's like a lot of paying attention not only to your scene and what's doing well in your scene, what venues are there, what band like locals are doing well, but also all these other regional scenes and other cities scenes. And
Yeah.
it gets really deep really quick. uh,
Yeah.
it's a lot of information. I'm surprised I can even keep that much in my head because I usually forget people's names after meeting them 10 times. Or like, I can't remember. I walk out the house and forget everything before I leave for work or just a very forgetful person. But if you ask me, like, oh, what's a good all ages venue in Philadelphia or something, I'm probably going to have at least two options or just out of
Yeah.
nowhere.
Do
Which
you have any favorite regions that you've played in, like recently? Like any regions that you would say has a really thriving music community?
I would say the Midwest for sure. Everyone is just really helpful. They take care of you so well. Gas is super cheap, which is amazing on tour, especially
Makes a
living in
difference.
California now. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Yes.
Um, I've always loved the Midwest. I love the Southwest too, and just the South in general, like Georgia. Um, just anywhere where they don't take it for granted, because and no shade on the West Coast or New York or East Coast, but I feel like some of these artsy cities really take for granted uh, bands coming through, just maybe because it's
Mhm.
oversaturation. And
Yeah.
so, when you play a small town like Bloomington, Indiana, or something like that, um, or like Joplin, Missouri, they really appreciate it a lot more, and those are sometimes the best shows. It feels like the whole town comes out. Like, people are very grateful, and it's kind of, I don't know, it's nice
Yeah,
compared to like
absolutely.
trying to like playing a show in LA and everyone's like, oh well, you aren't this big band, so like you're like, okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in a small town myself, in Texas. And so, yes, I have a deep appreciation for small towns and the community and like how everybody just, just loves when there's something, that they can support. And, especially when you have a love for live music, So,
Mhm.
and but it's interesting because there are some cities where it's so hard to get shows, especially if it's like I've been told in certain towns where it's like, oh, we only book this kind of music, like only book country music, or just for example.
Mhm.
And you're like, okay, well, I will try the next small city over, you know?
Yep, totally.
Yeah.
And it's wild because it changed too. Like I remember San Diego was one of the most impossible places to get a show booked, at least like pre-pandemic when I was booking my band tours. And then now San Diego's doing pretty well. Their scene's really good. They have quite a few spots to play, quite a few bars and all ages DIY. Um, and now it's like Las Vegas is a new one for me at least, where that one's been a little troublesome. And then it's funny how it switches like that. Everyone goes
Yeah.
through their waves. Every scene goes through their waves. Has their time, has their little golden era, and then kind of goes in remission. It's something you got to really navigate and pay attention to.
Yeah, it's kind of like technology, I feel like. It's just always changing. So it's like I think you just always have to just kind of like stay current, and just kind of be aware.
Yeah, totally. I try to take a break from social media just because it's healthy to get away from a sec,
Hmm.
but it's so difficult because there's just so much I'm trying to keep up with, and let alone like all the friends you meet and all like the connections. Like I love seeing all of my friends across the world that I met through music. Um, just like what they're working on, their families, their lives, and it's really hard to let go of that when you need that break. And it takes a lot of brain power, but it still is, I don't know, it's really rewarding. It's really nice just realizing how small the world is, and something like music and art can bring us together like that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think that's one of the beautiful parts about it is just, I feel like it's so universal,
Mhm.
like, I'm sure you experienced that in traveling in Japan and all the places you've been. It's a universal language that everyone, just can connect with in that way. So,
Totally, yeah, like just the
yeah.
energy, the expression. Mhm.
We're getting a question from Micah who is asking, oh, and thank you for your question, Micah. How do you reconcile the commercial pressures of the music industry with your artistic integrity?
Um, it's pretty tough, honestly. Like, there's a way the industry works, and lately I feel like it's more if you want to be in the industry at all, you got to kind of like be in the industry. You got to sacrifice a lot, or at least work really hard to like keep all of your artistic integrity. It's I think we're at a point where we kind of need to decide if we want to keep the old ways of the music industry and entertainment industry, which worked in the 80s, maybe the 60s, 70s. There was more money, better economy. Um, we need to decide if we're going to keep trying to make this work and keep adapting for that, or if we want to build something new that works better for artists. And I'm not sure what that new thing would be, but it's kind of just like I don't know. It's difficult. It's difficult navigating. Um, what my biggest advice just for navigating all that is just make sure you're the boss, being the artist. Like you hire the people, you are where all of it comes from. That way you aren't stuck relying on, say, like a label or a manager, someone to get you opportunities. You want to make sure that like you, for lack of a better term, are in control for the most part.
Yeah, absolutely. I, I I wanted to ask, like, do you see yourself ever being on a label, or is that something that you would ever be open to, or do you feel like you're really like in the lane of being DIY?
I could see myself being on a label, but it would just get down to the nitty gritty. Just kind of what a label provides. A lot of I see a lot of peers or just like a lot of bands that they really want to just be discovered, work really hard on TikToks, they try to go viral, they put all this work there, but they don't tour. And I'm like,
Hmm.
like a label is not going to sign anyone that isn't doing something for themselves already. And
Yeah,
so, and then at that point, it's like if you're doing what a label would do for you, then do you need the label? And so that's when you
yeah,
got to start thinking like, okay, well, I'm tired. I don't want to do it anymore. I just want to work on the music, which is totally valid. But also like, you know, sometimes you could do a better job yourself. You can have more attention to yourself. You kind of know what works. Um, and that goes for kind of anything. That goes for content creation, getting a booking agent, a manager, social media manager, like any kind of like PR, even um, any job that artists would need to outsource. If you could do it better, then like I say, just keep doing it. And so maybe I would be on a label, but it just is I'm very particular on how it would work.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, especially if you have a really strong vision for what it is that you're putting out there. And I mean, do you do all of the booking and content creation for your band?
Sasha, the drummer, does most of the booking now, which is great because I did all the booking and crushed, and so he stepped up and is doing all that for stars. I'll book some shows. We have different contacts, so we kind of collab with it, but he is definitely doing all of the legwork there. I just step in every once in a while, and content creation is usually my job. Yeah, I'll do merch designs, I'll do flyers, music videos, which we'll have a couple for this new release. So I'm excited to get more into that work. It's a lot
Yeah,
more fun than the booking aspect for sure.
really creative.
Yeah, yeah, and it's really fun to take your art to another medium, to like express it's like another level of expression.
I feel like that's like part of the fun. I think if you don't really look at it as sort of like drudgery and like, oh, this is a thing I have to do, but like this is a thing that I get to do, I get to create, and you're really actually inspired by it, then it can really be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and like I mean, like y'all are pros at it. Like you've created a whole like universe with Alice. Like it's like amazing. It's more than just a band. It's more than, like an art style and aesthetic. It's really is like its own world. And I don't think every artist needs to do that, but when you do, it's just so rewarding and fun. And I think it comes kind of naturally for y'all too now. I don't know if it did from the beginning, but it definitely looks like just like y'all have a great time with it.
Well, thank you. I feel like it's a forever work in progress. Like, and I think we're creatures of evolution, so it's like we like to continue to push the envelope. We always like to be like, okay, like how can we evolve this? How can we grow? What's the next thing that we can, draw from in terms of inspiration? So, with that being said, is there any like things you can share in terms of like what you're working on, like with your music videos, or any things, any visions that you're having in mind?
Mostly just want to do something unique.
Yeah,
Like I said, paying attention to all these scenes, all these bands, just the music industry, everything in general. I get really jaded off of unoriginal ideas. Uh, or like when people kind of like don't put too much effort into like something. So I just want everything to be intentional, I think. I
yeah,
all in our music in this record we were very intentional, even with like these little noise parts we had before songs, like intros and interludes. Everything was like planned, and we messed around with it to find cooler things, but um we would like to do the release and like the promo and PR for the record the same way, and just
yeah.
kind of like you said, push boundaries, challenge ourselves, really just have fun with it, and make sure we aren't just trying to do what works on Instagram or whatever.
I think that really is what comes down to it. Like I feel like it's kind of a mantra that I try to hold on to is not paying attention to the numbers. Because I think you can really get caught in that trap where you're just like, oh, are people gonna like this? Is this, and some things people may like, some things people may not like. But I think the most important thing is it something that really expresses you? Is it something that feels really like it comes from where it needs to come from and it feels true for you, right? So I think that's the most important thing. Like some of the people that I follow, they might not have like a ton of followers, but I just love their art. I love their music. I love their expression. I love their voice. So, I mean, to me, it's like even if it connects with one person, to me, I think that's everything, you know?
I agree completely. Just playing shows and on tour, everyone had a good time. And occasionally you get that one person who comes up and they're just like that set changed my life, or like they know the words to your songs and you never met them, like, so they actually listened, and things like that like are super important. And yeah, even if it's one person for the whole tour, like it's I don't care about the logistics or how much people we're reaching in our stories or our follower count or like count. um it's just kind of someone hearing you, because there's a lot of bands out there. So to
Yeah.
actually like pay attention is really, really to pay attention to something you create is really a gift that people can give.
Yeah, it absolutely is. I think that when it comes to the songwriting, which I want to ask you about, but when it comes to the songwriting, it's sort of like, I do the bulk of the lyric writing in the band, and so, you're really voicing something inside. And so, if anybody resonates with that, you're like, this is really amazing. Because I mean, I could just keep it in my notebook and not share it, but
Right.
I put it out there in the hopes that it might connect with someone and maybe help someone, and that's really meaningful, I think. Yeah. So, but I wanted to ask, do you do the songwriting yourself, or is this something that you just kind of like jam out with your bands?
Since we're in different cities, the way we usually do it is me and Sasha are the main songwriters. So we do probably like half and half at this point. Like I said, it started as a solo project, so I was writing everything. And then he started contributing, and so now we kind of just both contribute as we go. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, so we kind of both write demos out. Sasha plays guitar as well and bass. He's multi-instrumentalist. So um, we like will write out our parts, and we have a Google Drive. We'll take videos of us playing it so we can learn each other's riffs. And then we'll get together, aside from touring, we try to get together at least once every couple months, and we'll book some studio time. Or I finally have a lockout here now in San Francisco, so we can go there and just hash out some new song ideas over like 8 hours or whatever. And yeah, it's uh my songwriting process is a little everywhere. Sometimes I just get an idea for a riff, or I just get an idea for a feeling, and I kind of like write out all the instrumentals, or at least guitar and drums, and then I'll write lyrics to it after the fact. But sometimes, and something I've been leaning more into lately, is I'm trying to write lyrics first, and then imagine how the instruments will be around them. And I think that's giving me kind of a different sound from my usual songwriting,
Mm.
which is
Yeah.
nice because
Yeah.
I think every artist struggles with this, um where you keep writing like the same sounding songs, or you keep using the same rhythms or the same keys, the same melodies, or some same tones, something like that. And
Yeah.
I try to be very conscious of that, and switch it up. That way I'm not writing, the same song over and over again, or the same group of songs. I really want to push the envelope and find new sounds. And even if it's like a rhythm that's too similar to another song, or like lyrics or a rhyming scheme or something like that, just kind of mess it up a little bit, make it a little different.
Absolutely. I feel like too, I mean, like you were talking about with the lyrics come first, it's like you kind of at that point it's interesting probably coming up with riffs around that, right? Like the rhythms and
Yeah,
stuff around that.
yeah, especially if it's like, writing lyrics to a song, I feel like you have your syllable count or whatever, your rhythms and everything. But when you have free reign with the lyrics, you kind of can like do anything. And yeah, exactly. Just it changes the way you got to approach it.
So, with this upcoming album, did you have like a specific like whole vision for it, or were you just kind of going song by song? Was like is there a theme that you're playing around with?
We do. So at first we were going to do a full length album. And we wrote, I think two or three of these songs were for that full length. And then we had a couple other songs, but we decided that it was too long of a process for like a release and to record and finish writing. And we wanted to release new music sooner. And so we kind of said, okay, let's put the album, the full length on the back burner. We took a couple songs from it and then we wrote the rest of the songs. And it's going to be a 10-track album. Um, but it'll be like six full fleshed out songs. The other tracks are kind of like interludes or, intro parts. And we kind of just went in. There is like a theme of, oh God, Sasha, I could see him shaking his head now because he's very particular in his theme too. Um, it's like a very big theme with fire, and
Hmm.
kind of like like, I don't know. I don't want to speak too much on it, but like there's an overall theme for sure. Um,
Yeah,
but it is a little hard to put into words. It's kind of like this um desperation, I want to say.
yeah,
Uh, just like just the state of the world stuff,
yeah.
um, or state of the country, I should say. Sorry, I know that that was like did not answer the question. There is a theme. I just like can't put it into words right now.
No, I
But
feel like maybe
not
it's like
intentionally.
we all have to experience it. For those that are just getting to know you, is there a way that you could describe your music and describe like I know that's such a hard question. We get asked that, and I'm just like, well, it's a little bit of this and a little bit of that. But is there like kind of an overarching way to describe your music?
um, we've been lately saying like it's like just heavy music. It's screamo hardcore is a genre we say. I've been using devastating to describe it. We get
Ooh, nice.
uh we both me and Sasha do vocals and we both have really gnarly vocals. I scream at the top of my lungs, like just loud. Sometimes if the
Yeah,
mic cuts out or something, I'll just keep going and you can kind of hear me over it. The instruments is crazy. Um, so I don't know. It's pretty dark. It's a little doomy, um, but really fast and energetic still. And we try to play shorter sets that way we could just consolidate all of this energy and all of this expression, into a quick burst of 20, 25 minutes tops, and then it's over.
yeah,
Um, yeah. Describing like, I don't know. It's just like very, very emotional, heavy, sounds a little evil, very sad, especially this new stuff. There's some very sad parts. Um, but we try to keep up the energy, just make sure people can still move, mosh, have fun.
Okay, so speaking of heavy vocals, do you have warm-ups or things that you do to keep your voice in shape on tour? Or...
Just pray for the best, honestly. No, no. I do some warm ups. I do like the whole like humming and the pitch thing. But I've learned that like um, it's just a control thing. I don't drink before our sets. Because when you're drunk, you kind of lose that control. And me, I will push if I feel it too hard. I will just scream and get outside of that like threshold where I'll injure
Yeah.
my voice. Um, on tour it's a little tough because you go through the Southwest, the Midwest, and it's drier, and
Yeah,
it really, you know how
I
tough it is.
do.
Yeah, just like downing throat coat the whole time.
Oh
uh
yeah.
but I kind of just I do my warm-ups just to save my voice from permanent damage, but I've kind of accepted that the first couple of days of tour I'm going to hit a spot. I'll be cracking a little bit when I talk, but I still find that little pocket where I can scream and do my vocals live. And then after I would say like 4 or 5 shows, it's my body's like used to it. And then I'm comfortable, I'm a little bit more trained, and I know where that pocket is, and I can like remain there, and usually it's good. I don't no one take advice from me though. I'm pretty sure I'm shredding my vocal cords, but yeah, I do like the little YouTube warm-ups just like to kind of loosen up your vocal cords, and yeah, just all of that. Or singing R&B too. So
Yeah.
on the long
Yeah.
drives, I'll be singing Usher or Prince, and like it's my voice will crack for a lot of the parts. I can't hit all of the notes, but just that helps my jaw strength, and it'll kind of keep me loosened up.
That's awesome. That's really awesome, actually. Do you have any favorite like YouTube channels that you follow for the warm-ups?
No, I'm not too big on like YouTube videos like that. I kind of just like look them up. I did find this one in Louisville on this tour. I can't even I can't even remember. It was like five warm-ups for uh injured vocal cords or something, because at that point I was hurting. I was
Oh,
like,
yeah, yeah.
okay, I need to like reel it in and make sure I'm taking care of myself. um I can't remember the creator or anything though.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
helps. It definitely helps though, and I feel you when it comes I mean, when I'm singing vocals that need more, stamina, heavier vocals, there is a certain like after a certain number of days where you're like, okay, here's the pocket. And it takes a little bit. It's like a seesaw where you're like finding the balance, I think. Because it's different when you're singing in rehearsal versus singing live with in front of people because your adrenaline's going and the
Mhm.
monitors are different. It's all so different.
I was gonna say that's a big deal. Yeah, the room's different. The PA is different. Sometimes it's like, I don't know if y'all have, well, you bring your own PA, so I think y'all are usually fine. But like, if the you can't hear yourself very much, or if a PA speaker's blown, you're probably gonna sing louder or kind of compensate, and that's where it can
Yeah.
kind of really mess with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, Jess is giving some love. Jess is saying that is the best kind of music, Adam. I love
I'm glad.
that. Yes, yes. Yes. For y'all that are new to Adam, you can see he has this beautiful heart and beautiful expression, and you can just imagine how amazing his music is. So yeah, it's awesome to get to hear your perspective on all of this. um Not just as somebody behind the scenes, but as somebody as an artist. And I think it's really cool because it's so um honestly rare that I get to interact with artists that have worked so many different aspects of the music community. I mean, you've had your own venue, you've worked as a sound person, you've worked as gosh, tour manager. I could go on and on, but there's been many roles that you've played, so it's like you've seen so many different sides of things, which I'm sure like brings you a different kind of level of awareness on like how to run your own show.
Yeah, honestly, going back to the music industry question I think Micah asked earlier, I think that is probably the key thing. If you are big and like into music and all of this, I don't know. I think that it is important to get as much perspective as you can. And so, you should go to shows as an audience member, and you should play shows. Obviously, you probably are already, and you should put shows together. Book a show, help out a band on tour, or like just book a party, have a good time, and kind of see all of the problems you have to solve, and like see how you do in those situations, because you learn so much. It puts a lot of perspective um for being an artist. And I'm grateful for all the opportunities I've had to learn and help people. And um yeah, I think it's just a really important thing anyone could do, honestly, in any industry. In like, if you're a bartender, you should bar back, you should manage, you should maybe work in the kitchen, like do security. Like you should really do everything in your industry, and just get that perspective because it'll make you stronger in every other aspect.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like for me, like having learned how to book shows, and I have other people that will ask me like, well, how do I put a tour together? How do I find a booking agent? And I'm like, well, I don't know if I can advise you on the booking agent, but I can certainly like point you in the right direction on like how to like book your own shows. So, like what would you tell somebody like how do you book your first show? How do you book a show in a new city that you've never been in?
Whenever nowadays I'll go on Bandcamp and I'll search like the genre and the city. Or you can find the venues first and go to their and look at their flyers and just see like if they have videos of a really sick show, a lot of people are there and there's a band playing, kind of check out that band if they sound like you. If they're on a similar level, like you hit them up and just say, hey, we're like trying to book a show, we kind of sound alike, I really like your band, I listen to y'all, you're great, can you help us out? And most of the time bands reply, and if they aren't able to help out, then they are able to point you in a direction too. And yeah, just there's nothing wrong with cold emailing bands. I recommend finding bands before promoters or venues, just because promoters are usually a little bit more on the business side and might be a little bit different. And then venues, same, they don't know who you are if you're like a no-name band, or like, it's your first time playing this city. If you don't have like a lot of followers or TikTok views or whatever, they might not be as interested. Um, so just find bands that are like-minded and about it and sound similar, that you dig their sound. And I'm big on mutualism. And so I always tell everyone, if you ever need anything in Albuquerque, or I'm trying to get my foot in the door in the Bay for booking, but it's a little tougher out here. But I still offer, I can at least offer that information. Just because once again, like I like to, help out. That's what DIY is about.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, you're getting some love in the chat. Amia is saying you are awesome. I agree.
Thank you.
And Holly was also reflecting that's you were talking about all the different roles. She was saying I also think it makes you more compassionate. 100%.
A hundred
That's what I
percent.
was
I
saying.
You
Yeah.
can tell working with the band if they have done your job or if they've done any other job besides being on the stage. Because that's the I love bands and I like playing music, but sometimes bands are the biggest divas. Like it's like it's like and trust me, I think musicians do need to get paid. We have a big issue with this, but there is like a lot of behind the scenes people who don't get the glory of playing that show like as well. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of people overlook them, that sound engineer that doesn't get it paid enough, the security that doesn't get paid enough. Like there's a lot of cogs that we all need to kind of really respect and understand that we're all in this together, and it takes a lot to make a show happen. That magic isn't just there instantly, that's like it takes a lot to make a safe space, or a safer space. That attention, like that attention and intention, yeah, super
Yeah.
important. And compassion is definitely important.
Yeah, absolutely. You were talking about how like it's like when you go to a show, it's the band is one part of it. It's just one
Mhm.
part, and there's so many parts. There's the people that come to the show to support it. There's the
Yep.
venue, there's the sound people, there's the whole crew that's like there working the venue. There's so many, like you said, moving parts, and every single person is so vital. Every single person in that room or not in that room. Sometimes there's, promoters that are not there, but everybody that's
Yeah.
like been a part of putting it together is important. So, yeah.
Are you familiar with like the fire triangle, where it's like fuel, spark, and air or oxygen? I always think of that whenever I think of successful shows. So, it's like three sides of a triangle. It's audience, the artist or performer, and then the venue or the host. And if you take any of those sides away, it's not going to be a good show, or
Yeah,
maybe the show can't even happen, you know? And so you got to make sure everyone's doing their role, everyone's happy, everything's good on all sides, and it'll be a good show.
absolutely. Oh, getting an awesome question from Gavin. Thank you so much for your question. What can organizers of DIY venues do to better support touring artists?
Let me think. Just maybe accommodations is nice. I think
Yeah.
America can start looking at Europe from what I've heard. Once again, someone who's in Europe can probably school me on this. But what I hear about Europe is that when you get a show booked, they give you a place to stay, they feed you, um, and that's on top of your guarantee or booking the show and promoting and getting the bands and everything. I think a lot of DIY spots can uh, kind of go the extra mile and give a place to stay, maybe make a meal for a band, because we've been eating Taco Bell for 2 weeks and like, or Whole Foods, like hot bar, spending way too much money. Um, and so that always helps out and goes far. And then, yeah, like, a place to stay is a big one. I know after pandemic, a lot of people like live in smaller spots. They kind of accommodate, but bands honestly can sleep on a floor. Most bands I know, in my band for sure, we are like not picky. I think people think that they need a guest bedroom or beds for everyone. Um, that's not the case most of the time. Uh, it's like just a living room. That's not too dirty or not too ran down or whatever. Like no offense to anyone, but that accommodation would help out a lot. And biggest thing lately with booking is like, I don't know your city, I don't know your scene, so like help with locals, help with promotion, all of that is very appreciated. Because I'm at that point where I know maybe a couple people in every city, but like I can't just bring two people to the show and it works. I need y'all to like get a good band and help us out and like make sure they're promoting, um, make sure the bands aren't oversaturating and playing too much, because it's a big slap in the face when you're on tour. You play a city on a Monday or Tuesday night, and the band's like, "Oh yeah, we just played Saturday and we're playing Friday too." Because it's like, okay, who's gonna go see you on a weekday? Like
Yeah, yeah,
like I don't think clauses are super necessary, especially in DIY, but just little things like that. Just kind of understand, like, everyone wants to have a good show, and so just anything like that to accommodate and help is amazing.
absolutely. We've actually played some shows where that we slept at the venue. They had couches or, like you said, floor space. And so we actually did a run of shows in the South where we actually like stayed at this venue. I want to say for several days. Like we just kind of lived at the venue for several days,
Yeah.
and we were like driving around to different cities around that city, So it was pretty awesome that they housed us, and we got to know everyone really well, and they fed us too because they had food, so that was amazing. So
Oh yeah, I
yeah,
love that. Even just access to a kitchen, because I love cooking on tour. We can go to, a grocery store, 30, $40, feed the entire tour plus who's hosting us. And it's way healthier, it's fresh, it's much better than fast food. All of that really goes far too.
okay. So what are your favorite things to cook on tour?
Usually pasta is the easiest.
Oh yeah.
I'm vegan. I'm the only vegan in my band. And so if they want meat or eggs or cheese or anything like that, they can get that and do it themselves. But pasta is a good one. And then tacos or burritos is really good too. We'll get like potatoes, eggs, some kind of protein. Sasha likes making these like hummus burritos with bell peppers and onions, and those are nice because we can make a bunch, pack them. They're super cheap and easy to make, and then snack on those for a day or two. Um, I'm trying to think of what else. Whenever I have bands stay the night, I love making green chili stew, which is a New Mexican dish. Um, so it's like just stew. It's meat, potatoes. I put beans in mine, put pasta in it sometimes or rice, and then it's green chili, so it's hot. It's super filling, really, really comforting, you know. I think it hits when you're on tour. Um, yeah, all of those are great
Yeah.
and super easy. Anything that's like one pot or like really easy like that. I've seen a lot of vegan chili, you know. Had a lot of people make vegan chili, and that's great, you know. Just get some tortilla chips, and yeah, it's awesome.
Oh yeah, chili goes a long way.
Mhm.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I like to make like chili is one, lentils. I'll make like lentils and rice, that sort of thing. Because we actually travel with a slow cooker and a rice cooker. And so, and we bring like non-perishable foods, so like all the dried goods that don't go bad. It just makes it kind of easy to make healthy food that doesn't, that can last you.
Oh, totally. Yeah. If you get a little
Yeah.
box in the van, you know, you can have your own seasonings. Like, yeah, that's
Yes.
actually smart. We should probably look into that too.
I
Because that
highly recommend
sounds
it.
awesome.
We call it the van tree, like our little box of spices that I bring. I bring home spices from the Shire
Yeah,
for all you
right.
Hobbit fans. Um, so oh, okay, here's a question. What's the worst show setup you've ever had to salvage, and how did you pull it off?
Oh gosh. Okay. I'm gonna have to dig into this. Um, uh, I want to say without being disrespectful or like without calling anyone out. I won't say where, but there's a show and the venue took a pretty big cut of the door and their sound system was atrocious. It was like a PA and I think there was two speakers, but only one worked, or they didn't have cables. And so luckily we got in the habit of touring with our PA system and like a box of XLRs and mics and stuff, just because we've been in this situation a couple times. And so I ended up just saying, oh, we'll just use ours, which wasn't a big deal. But I ended up running sound for the whole show and like using our sound. And I think we backlined a lot of our gear too, only for like us to um I think we did get a little cut, but you know, the venue didn't even make their cut from the show. And I was kind of just like, this is gnarly, you know, like
Mm,
it's really rough. It feels like you're not working together to make a show happen like that. And when
yeah,
you're the touring artist and you're doing so much more, it's like it's just I don't know. It's kind of tough. I never mind working. I never mind working sound. I never mind helping out a show. But at the same time, when there's such a big cut and it's like, you know, you could have paid a sound engineer to do that job, like that's when it's a little
yeah,
slap in the face.
yeah,
That show
yeah.
is probably the worst, at least in recent history. Um, yeah, yeah, that's probably yeah.
I feel you. Yeah, we played a show one time where they didn't have a sound system, and so they went out to Guitar Center to rent the sound system, like while we were waiting, and we ended up running all the sound, and it was pretty wild. It was a pretty wild show. I mean, the show ended up being great, but I feel you, like you when you have to work that much harder, and you're already on the road, so
Yeah, yeah,
there's
not like I'm a rock star and I just like want to party and play my set and get off stage. You
yes,
know, I'm always down to
yeah,
work. I'm always down to help out.
yes,
But
absolutely,
it's
yeah,
it's one of those things where it's just like, oh my gosh, okay, like at least a heads up. You know,
yes,
like oh
yes,
hey, by the
yeah.
way, we sound isn't great. You might want to figure something out. Or oh by the way, we don't have a sound engineer. Like a little heads up goes a long way as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, honestly, that's part of the reason why we started traveling with our own sound as well. And I mean, you mentioned earlier like having control. We saw that just so many times there were just so many X factors and chaos that would happen that was out of our control. So we were like, well, we need to make sure that it's always constant, like our sound is constant, because that's one thing you need, unless it's an acoustic show, right? Even then, it's nice to have amplification, but you always have to have like some kind of a sound system. So,
Totally. Yeah.
yeah,
And you know, mostly playing DIY venues, which we strive for, you know. I understand. You know, I've had times at
yeah,
Fly Honey where like we just our sound system just crapped out, or you know, we're scraping by with what we have. And so I luckily have two just like 1,000 watt QSC K12s, you know, and they're pretty easy. They're powered speakers, so we don't need a big old power amp or anything like that. We just have those in the van, and it's a nice, like, just if we need them.
Yeah.
Worst case scenario, if, like, we want monitors, we could pull them out and have monitors and use the actual sound system, like, as a sound system. So
Yeah. Yeah, it really helps a lot. And then, obviously it's less stress for everyone. Like I always see, for the most part, like, when we have that set up, venues are also not as stressed because I feel like it goes both ways. Like, I mean, I feel like, for the most part, like when I work with venues and sound people, they really want you to succeed. They want the show to be great. They want the sound to sound great. So, if you can do your part in trying to help out as well, I think that really helps the whole night.
I remember when we first met, pulling up to Moonlight Lounge, and y'all had all your gear outside waiting for us to unlock the door, and like all these road cases. And I was like, oh my God, oh no. And then seeing you like set everything up, I was like, I don't know how we're gonna do this, but like, because we had just like what, a 4-channel, 6-channel mixer maybe. And I
Yep.
was like, I really have no idea how, like, what we're gonna do. But you all already streamlined it so easy. You're like, oh, just here, just tap these 2 things in there and then we'll take care of the rest. And it worked out great and it sounded great. And it made my life so easy, because I have had times where bands would come through and they have these crazy complex, like, in-ear situations or in-ear monitor situations, or like samples, like, I don't know, just weird things like that. And I'm like, dude, this is like my garage. Like, I don't
Yeah.
really, we got to the point where we could accommodate a lot more sound wise, but when we first started, it was, bare bones. We had maybe 4 mic inputs. So,
Yeah.
no
Yeah.
sub, like smaller speakers. So, but yeah, that streamlining is really important.
Yeah, absolutely. I think too, I mean, I obviously like everybody has like a different setup. Every band has a different setup, but being able to like have your own setup where you know your system and that, I mean, there's amazing sound people out there that can handle it, but it definitely helps when you can just make things hopefully easier for the people you work with.
Yeah, and honestly, that's one of those professional things that everyone should strive for too. We had an engineer, Matthew Tobias. He always told us, back when I was with Crush, we recorded with him. He's located in Albuquerque, and he told us, when you're playing a stage, pretend you're playing the next up stage, like the
Mm,
next level, because that way you're not playing Moonlight Lounge, which, if y'all don't know, is like a 60 cab bar, really tiny stage. Like, you're not playing Moonlight Lounge like you're playing Wembley or something huge where it's kind of pompous or pretentious. But, like, you can pretend you can be playing Sunshine Theater, which is the 800 cap venue Moonlight Lounge is attached to. And I think it's the same with like sound and all of that, performance, everything. It's like, just, be like on that next level, but just a level up where, you can still work and not be pretentious or pompous, but it's just professional.
yeah.
I've always appreciated that about y'all. You just have it down to a T. It makes it so easy.
I love it. Forever work in progress, but I really appreciate that. Yeah, we've been playing more festivals in the past year and we have some festivals coming up and that's totally it's very different than playing, just like just a night with, maybe 3 or 4 other bands. 'Cause you have like a whole situation of maybe several
Yeah,
days, so many bands, and so there's just a lot of moving parts. And so I feel like all the shows that we've played has helped prepare us because I feel like you really have to be very aware and like, hopefully as considerate as you can be to the other bands, to the promoter, like, be on time, like little things like that where you're like,
yeah.
okay, get, just, get our stuff set up so that it doesn't take too much time and take your stuff off the stage as soon as you're done. Little things like that.
Totally, yeah. And then have your oh my gosh, what are they called? Your layouts for the stage, your input
Yeah,
list and all of that is very
yeah,
important.
for
Yeah.
sure.
There's been so many shows where, I got bands like the bassist just walks up and it's just like, whose amp am I using? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, did you ask anyone? Like, and then it's just another problem someone has to figure out. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I actually spoke with amazing Seattle promoter Elizabeth Ingles, and that was one of the things she said. Because I asked her about this, and she was like, one of the biggest things is knowing the input list ahead of time. Because she's like, I don't want to be in scramble mode like right before the show,
Yep.
you know.
Yeah, I've been there. And anytime I have like my info messages, like when I'm book shows, I always ask like, what do you need? Do you have samples? Do you have backing tracks? Do you have anything out of left field I need to watch out for? Do you have the correct connections? Because sometimes people need a very specific niche chord. And it's
Yeah,
sometimes you have it, but like just depends. And then you need a workaround if you don't, which is the fun in engineering for sure.
yeah. Well, and backups. That was another thing I've heard is like having
Backups.
having
Mhm.
your backups, having all
Yep.
the cable backups, anything that you might need, right?
Mhm. Yeah, guitar backups, cables, even amps. I see more bands traveling with extra bass heads. Like mind you, they're like the little amp pegs, so they don't take up too much space. But it's smart, just because like when something goes wrong, you just want to fix it right away and keep the show going.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So as a four piece, what kind of a tour vehicle do you tour in?
I have a Chevy Express 3500, so it's a
Yeah.
a 15 passenger. We usually take out the. I only have three benches in it, so we usually take out the third bench, and that fits all of our gear, merch, bags, and then we have two benches. Um, if it's just the four of us, it's you know how that comfort is. Each person gets a bench to lay on, two people up front. We'll tour with like a photographer or someone doing merch, so sometimes we'll be like a five piece, and that person will be back there, same setup. We will be doing a 2 week tour on the West Coast in June. And so that one, the band we're touring with is gonna fly into the Bay, and we're gonna just use all of our gear. But since it'll be eight of us in the van, we will get a trailer, and so all the gear will be in the trailer, and then we'll have three benches, so two to a bench, two up front, have some space in the back if someone wants to lay down. Um, and yeah, that's honestly, I suggest that if you're a smaller band, you can maybe get away with like a Ford Transit, those little like delivery cargo ones. Um, like if you're a three piece maybe, or especially a two piece. Um, but if you're like a full band and you have like cabs and all of this, I strongly just recommend getting a van because anything else is just not built for the wear and tear.
Yeah.
And even if you're like in an SUV with a trailer, like that comfort is kind of drives you crazy depending on how long the tour is. But honestly, I've seen people tour in crazy vehicle situations, so it's honestly whatever works.
It's true. I mean, the very first tour I was on, we had like the SUV, all of us like crammed with the little trailer behind us, and we're all just kind of like this.
Yeah. Like you can't
And
stretch out, you can't put
yeah,
your seat back, nothing.
exactly. You're just kind of like trying not to fall asleep on the person next to you, but you do anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it makes you so grateful when you're able to stretch out. Like it's like having that experience now. I will never take being able to stretch out for granted for sure.
100%. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. I mean, we're still traveling in van ourselves. I have friends that travel in buses, which is a totally different thing. Like you were mentioning, because I feel like you have to reach a certain level of being able to financially handle that. It's so much more expensive. So many more things can go wrong.
Right. Yeah. Like I like the bandwagons. Those ones are cool.
Yeah.
Those ones seem I haven't really seen inside them too much. I don't know the layout, but they seem like not too expensive, but more comfort, which is nice for, say like a full US 2 month tour or something like that. Um, but yeah, it's mostly just like working within your means. I'm on my third van. Wait, no. Yeah, this is my third van. It's a 2013. And my first two vans were old and really, really gnarly and had so much issues that I was like, okay, I don't want to deal with that anymore. I'm gonna take a loan out and get a good van that runs. And it's been great ever since.
Yeah, it makes such a difference. We've had our, well, last year we had our share of vehicle troubles. So it's like,
Right.
it's at that point, where you're like, okay, I think it's time to sort of like figure out a different vehicle situation. So yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. Our first van actually, we paid $700 for it. It had no air conditioning. There was a hole in the driver's like floor and it didn't turn right. So we'd have to like plan out
It
our
didn't
street
turn
maneuvers. You're
right.
like, it didn't turn
It didn't
right.
turn right.
No. So
That's
you'd had to,
insane.
it was crazy. It was so crazy.
That
I
is
don't know
that
how. I don't know.
that is hilarious. Oh my God.
Well,
Was
it
it
makes me
safe?
grateful.
Did you merge at least? Or-
I mean, it probably wasn't that safe. But here I am in one piece, so.
Our first van was from 1985, and the speedometer didn't work. And so we had to download apps on our phones and put them on the dashboard to know how fast we were going. So I totally feel you. There's always little workarounds like
Yep,
or like
there is.
that.
Where
That
there's a
is
will, there's a way.
yeah, yeah, right. Yeah. I did.
Yes,
We
but
did have
it's,
this. We had
oh,
this
go ahead.
other one that the heater didn't work, and not only did the heater not work, but we were driving. It was with that Japanese van, Camellia. We were driving through the redwood forest in February, and we had to wrap cardboard and like blankets around our legs because I guess the vents were just open, and so it was just freezing air on the driver and the passenger up front. And like it was so bad that our friend Keith, who was with us, it was his van. He had like a little gas stove. He would like turn it on and put it in between up front on the cooler, like to get some semblance of heat. It was
Oh
so
my
dangerous. I
gosh.
don't know. I don't know how we did any of that.
Yeah, you kind of do what you have to do, and I feel like there are like tour angels that just watch over you. They
You're
do.
right. Literally, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. We didn't have air conditioning, and I just remember because we did a summer tour, and I mean, some of the places we hit were like well into the hundreds, and I lived off of popsicles like the whole time. Every gas station, I was like, I need a popsicle. Like, but you get to
Oh,
tour, and it's totally worth it. So,
oh yeah, yeah. I
yeah,
think yeah, that just goes to show like how about it you are, you know. We played with this band a while back, and they kind of looked at us, and we were laughing about stuff, and they were like, "Oh, so you're lifers," you know. And I was like,
yeah.
"Oh yeah, I guess I am," you know. Like no matter what, you overcome it, and you just make it work, and you do it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not for everybody. It's a way of life. It absolutely is. It's something that it takes a lot of stamina for sure. Um, it takes a lot of energy, it takes a lot of stamina. It takes time away from the people that you care about. So like you're on the road for a long period of time and there might be things that you miss out on. And if you're lucky, you have a support system that understands, and that is awesome. And also if you're lucky, you have a band family that's on the same boat as you are. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely the most important part. I've been on tours, you know, when some people just aren't about it, and like you could tell, and I just tell them straight up at this point. I'm like, well then don't do it, you know. Like don't do this as a favor, you know. If you don't like it, then you know I don't want to. No one wants to put you through that. Like it's okay. Yeah, it's not for everyone.
You have to know your why. You really
Hmm.
do. So
Hmm.
so why do you do it?
I, I feel like I've tried to stop and it just never worked. You know, like it was like that with like booking shows too. I would always like I think you've known me long enough for you to see my Facebook post where I'm like, I'm done, I'm taking a break, you know, and then literally 2 weeks later a venue shuts down and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, we could book those shows last minute here. I got you all, you know. I just I just keep getting pulled back in. But honestly, like nothing beats traveling and lately what's been really keeping me going is all my friends across the country. um you know like nothing's for sure in this life, you know, anything can happen, especially lately. So you never know when the last time you might see someone is, and
Yeah.
so I just want to be sure I can go out on the road and see people I love across the country as much as I can.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I feel you. I mean, I've had friends that I've, lost in the past few years, like we're musical dear friends. And, yeah, you don't ever know when that last interaction might be. And it's so special when everybody that, that's out there with you is absolutely doing what they love. And I don't know, there's just a very special synergy that I think happens.
100%. Mhm.
Yeah. Um, Micah is actually asking if you had to describe your music using the names of three artists that have influenced you, who would they be?
Let's see, probably first would be this band from France called Birds in Row. Sure, an amazing band. They're one of my favorites. Um, they play heavy music in a way where it's not strictly heavy. It's just drenched with emotion though. Just so good. I cannot say enough good things about them. Um, the other two, um, we're not as cool as this band, but the Chariot is definitely a big influence, and we have gotten that on tour. So I will say, like okay, someone said it. It's not just me. Um, but there's sort of chaos and energy. We try to capture a little bit, or people have compared us to. Um, for the last one, maybe like Converge, but I feel like that's a cop out because that's a lot of bands in the genre. Because Converge is just the blueprint. Um, I'll use Converge as a placeholder. I'm not. That's all I got for that one.
To be continued.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Maybe you'll come to me later.
Um, we're getting a question from Holly. How do you combat homesickness while on the road?
I try to use it. I try to create gratitude with it because
Mm,
being home too long, I miss the road. I miss seasons in different places now because I've experienced them a few times, and so I try to use it to um, be more present and just grateful when I am home. And especially for those who don't know, I recently moved to the Bay Area from Albuquerque like a year and a half ago. So technically, here is still very new to me. And so whenever I'm on the road, I'm always talking to my girlfriend. She's sending me pictures of the dogs. And I just kind of know that eventually I will get home. And when I'm home, I gotta go outside and go experience the city and go hang with my friends and like really, really like relish in all of it. Um, and that usually helps me. I don't get too homesick where I can't stave it off that way.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I I feel like it's like it's almost like it's sort of like home is where you are, right? And
Mhm.
and the beauty of technology is that you can stay connected, so you can't, it's easy to like video chat or send pictures and that sort of thing as well. But yeah, like I think it helps too to have your communities around you from city to city, because everybody makes you feel at home.
Totally, yeah. Yeah, you got your when you tour for so long and especially the same cities, you get your little places and things you do. So like every time we play in Wichita, we go to Ricardo's, I believe it's called. It's this great Mexican spot. It's open 24 hours. So just go right after the show. And we do that every time. We make jokes that that's the only reason we play Wichita is just to go to Ricardo's. Just kidding, Wichita. We love Wichita. But yeah, so like it's one of those things where you kind of you find your little homes away from home.
Yeah. Absolutely. We will sometimes actually get people that will bring us food and
Yeah,
things like that too. So that always really helps too, is when you get like a nice meal and someone, brings it with love. So
I'm big on the cultural exchange from touring. And so I know you never played Fly Anywhere House, but anytime bands did, I would cook them new Mexican food. and I would show them,
Oh,
like, yeah, let me make you green chili chicken enchiladas. Obviously, once again, vegan, so they would usually be vegan, but um, I would just try to like show people that, especially international touring bands, because it's like a whole experience. I want people to remember, Albuquerque and get the full experience, and the food is one of the best parts. And
absolutely.
now that I'm in the Bay, like I don't claim the Bay yet. It feels a little um, different out here, but I'm still New Mexican, so I'll just continue that tradition on here until, I start making. I don't even know what a Bay food is. Clams? I don't know. Oysters or something? I don't know.
I feel you. I'm still Texan. I'm in
Yep.
California, but I'm still Texan. Yeah, yeah. I don't know. It's good to have your roots.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
Yeah. I do feel like too, that is a really big part that I love about touring is that you do get to, I mean, even just within the US, there's so many different cultures and food is a big part of it. So getting to experience
Ah,
like that.
totally. Yeah. Like I love any tour. I like getting coffee.
Mhm.
I like checking out cool bars. I'm a bartender, so I love going to anywhere like really unique and original, especially if they have really good drinks. Um, and then food. I'm like every time we go into a city, I look up what artists are from that area, and then what's the famous like food.
Yeah, for sure. So if anyone were like to say like, Adam, how can we support you on this show? Like what are things that people could bring to you like while you're out on tour?
Um, I'm sure there's a better answer, but like maybe like snacks or like any like even just like a case of water.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
you go through that so much in the van. And so
Yeah.
little things like that like are awesome. I love when people cook for us, but sometimes it is hard to like keep food, in a van especially. And so that's a little tough, but maybe some like non-perishables, snacks, food. Yeah, I guess all of that stuff is great. Um, my band, we don't drink as much as we used to, but if you bring us like a 6 pack of some local beer, we'll be super stoked. We
Yeah.
bought a bunch of Malort when we were in Chicago because Malort's awesome. So,
Well, if you were to like share, with a band that's still like up and coming and working on their first tour, like how I know you mentioned that your drummer does all the booking now, but like how does one go about like routing or how do you guys go about like routing and planning and that sort of thing?
um, when you're so my our methods have changed a little bit, but back in the day, I would usually route. Um, you basically want to see how much time you have. Say you have 2 weeks. Everyone could get off of work for 2 weeks, and that's sustainable and efficient enough. Um, you basically want to set where you want to go, um, or how far you can go in a week, because then obviously you need a week to get back home. Um, and so, judging by that, we used to just try to play everywhere we could. We'd play every small city. We'd play Santa Fe, New Mexico, Las Vegas, New Mexico, Colorado Springs, Denver, Fort Collins, Laramie, Wyoming. We'd play all these dates, but excuse me. Now we kind of think more of what's a more beneficial show, because there's a certain point where you can play these small cities and they'll be good shows, and they will even like have good money sometimes, but it's like, do you need to play Pueblo, Colorado every time you go through like that part of the country? So
Yeah.
there's like little things like that. I'd say just kind of like if you have any friends anywhere, um like if you're touring, say you're in Albuquerque, New Mexico, if you have friends in Houston, Texas, then yeah, you should tour to Houston, play with your friends that when their band toured through Albuquerque, you met them and you played with them, and they'll book you a show, and then you can tour back through however. Um, I guess like checkpoints. when
Yeah.
you're booking a tour, you kind of want your cities that you know will do, or maybe not know, but cities that are likely to do better. As long as you have like one good checkpoint city every 3 days on a tour, you usually will be okay. Because that means you
Yeah.
could have two or three bad shows and then you have one good one that hopefully makes up for it. Or even like if you have family somewhere, like I have family in Ohio and we had an off day in September and we went and saw my grandma I haven't seen in 15 years. I saw my aunt I haven't seen in 10. And we we stayed with them, they fed us, like we got to hang out, and that I think that counts as like a checkpoint as well. So
Yeah.
I guess just be a little smart with like the routing like that. You don't want to just go, oh, we want to tour California and you don't know anyone and you don't know what you're doing at all and it's your first time there, because it can eat you alive that way.
Yeah, absolutely. It's checkpoints is such I like that. That's such a great word for it. I never quite put that word to it, but I'm like, yeah, checkpoints, because yeah, like having those key places that like even if it's just being able to see some family and friends, which is one of my favorite parts too, is getting to see your people.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but yeah, like having those, places that you're like, okay, when you're looking at a route, for however long you go out and going like, okay, these are the places that we know are going to be solid. I mean, obviously, sometimes there's no telling. Sometimes you can like put everything into promoting the show and you think it's going to be great, and then it just turns out how it turns out, right?
Oh yeah, totally. Another band in your genre that's way bigger than you can be playing the same night down the street. Like
Yeah,
there's so many factors like that. Um, but yeah, it's just one of those things where you roll with the punches.
yeah,
Sometimes guarantees, if you're able to get a guarantee somewhere, that can help you out too. I count those as like checkpoints. Like, okay, well, even if the show sucks, we get $250. So, you know,
yeah,
we can at least get a hotel or, like we're a little more in the green, depending on funds and how what green is for a band.
yeah, absolutely. I think, for us, one of the key things is keeping our costs as low as possible, safely.
100%. Yes, yeah. You
Yeah,
you can't be getting hotels every night. You can't be eating out like like really expensive food, You can't be going to a Chili's or like a sit down restaurant every night on tour. I have
yeah.
to be careful with coffee, like I mentioned earlier, because I love coffee. I love going to little coffee shops, but if I'm spending $10 on an oat milk latte every day of tour, that adds up real quick.
Oh,
Or
yeah.
even, and this is so embarrassing, my big one that I've been trying to curb is chips or snacks at a gas station, because
That adds
that's
up.
there's it's so expensive. It's so easy to spend $25 at a gas station, and if you do that even every couple days, like it's like over $100 in a week. And
Yeah,
you could have just went grocery shopping and got some snacks. And so yeah, there's definitely the costs, keeping costs low. That is very important.
for sure. It's like it's a bike too, because obviously like in the van, storage is limited, so you can only store so much. But it's like if you kind of plan your grocery stops too, where it's like a shorter drive that day, so you have time to stop by the grocery. Sometimes we have people that will bring us groceries, which is amazing. Thank
That
you,
is,
angel people.
I love that. That is amazing.
Yes. Yeah.
I have a Costco membership, and honestly, what we do is we'll get cases of water from there. Like I said, I'm vegan, so I get these like plant-based protein shakes, and I'll throw some of those under the bench, and then that way I at least know if I'm eating really bad, like you usually do on tour, I have the vitamins and the protein from those shakes that'll keep me going.
Hmm.
Um, and then you can get like other snacks at Costco and just like have like a little stockpile. That way, if you do have one of those bad days where you have a 10-hour drive, you can't really stop and get food, or you're in the middle of the country where there's not many options. If you have food allergies, which I feel really bad for people who have um, gnarly food allergies, because it just limits everything so much more. But
Yeah.
yeah, if you just ahead of time you pack up like as much as you can, just like have a little box of snacks or crackers or nuts. They have these little individually wrapped nuts, and those are good. Nice little healthy
Hmm.
snack. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's all good calls.
Yeah, those are great. Yeah, like I feel like, and every our band has like their favorite snacks. The guys in my band love
Yeah,
Fig Newtons or
I
those
love
peanut
too.
butter pretzels. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, they go to town on that. So it's like having like the stash definitely helps with the road snacks.
Totally, yeah. I'm guilty of just eating most of the road snacks in like the first like 3 or 4 days though. Like, like I have to really like hide them or put them out of reach, because I'll just keep eating it. Like
Well, I mean, especially if you're driving, it kind of helps,
ah,
right?
100%. Yeah, like especially night drives, because you're like, okay, well, I need to stay up, like caffeine and eating something and music. Like that's all you got.
Yeah. Do you have like an average, like in terms of your routing, like that you don't like to go past in terms of how many hours you're driving?
Stars, our band Stars is known to have the stupidest routing. Like we did a tour recently, a couple years ago, where we were doing West Coast, and when we announced it, it looked super dumb, but like the way we were booking it, it made sense. We basically came up to the Bay to play Sacramento, I believe it was, and then we had an off day, and then we were playing Oakland. But on that off day, we got a show offer in Long Beach, California. So literally, we drove up to Sacramento, back down 6 hours to Long Beach, and then back up to Oakland, and it was just really dumb. Everyone was clowning on us for a while for that one, but now it's once again it's where we can get booked, and it'll be a decent show. And we usually just try to stick to 9 or 10 hours or less. Um, some drives are impossible to like keep under 10 hours, like Albuquerque to anywhere in Texas besides El Paso. That
Yep.
is one of the gnarliest ones. So anytime we do that drive, I'm always like, let's just do it overnight. I rather if northern Texas, especially, I think like
Yep.
I rather not see anything than daylight and like and see nothing, see nothing, like
Yes.
nothing out there. Um, but yeah, like ten hours is usually what we aim for. We did have a gnarly 15-hour drive through two time zones in September. We did Denver to Indianapolis. And that was really stupid, but once again, we got a good show offer, so we had to take it, and it just made sense, and it was a really good show. Um, but yeah, that was probably our gnarliest drive, and I do not want to do that again without an off day.
Yeah, it's hard when you do have to like climb out of the van after like a really long drive and sleep deprivation and then do a
And then
show.
play, yeah, especially like that one was like this too, where it's like we got there and instantly we had to load on the stage and like get ready, and it's like it's just like such a blur. And then like after it all, you're like, wow, we really just drove 1,500 miles or whatever. It's crazy.
Yeah. It's a blur. It's a blur. I
Yeah.
feel like you're going on fumes.
Yeah.
Um, for me, like the adrenaline will carry me, but then after the show, I'm like, well, after the show, I'm still there, but then as soon as I lay down, I'm like out.
Yeah, especially with the time zone differences, depending on which way you're going, east or west. Sometimes it's like way early if you're going east to west, and like you just pass out like at 9 p.m. or I guess after a show it'd be like 11 or whatever, or vice versa. If you're going to the east, it's like 3 or 4 a.m. You're still wide awake because you're just you drove all through those time zones.
Yeah, it is a matter of, I mean, everybody has like their ways of like catching naps and being able to sleep. Steve is amazing. Like, he can literally sleep behind his drum set with the music blaring, and like we'll be like, "Where's Steve?" And he'll just catch a 15-minute nap with music super loud. I don't know how he does it.
That is so impressive. Like
It
if
is
I if I
impressive.
if I nap at all, even like 10 or 15 minutes, I like wake up just groggy. It's like it's just not worth it. I just have to like power through.
Yeah. Holly is asking if we have a favorite venue to play. And when planning a tour, is there a place that is so cool you really enjoyed and love to play tour after tour?
One of my favorite venues is Seventh Circle Music Collective in Denver.
Mm,
It's a
that's a
classic
great one.
spot. So many great bands have played there. I've played there probably like 10 times, and I love it every time. The people who run it are amazing, good friends of ours. It feels like a second home. And when I started Fly Honey Warehouse, it was basically based off of Seventh Circle and how they run it. Um, and so that's definitely up there. We played Mr. Roboto Project in Pittsburgh on this last tour in February, and I've been wanting to play there since like I started touring, so that was really cool. Um, Trying to think of any others. Um, there's a spot formerly known as Church in Hollywood that is a really dope venue. I like that spot a lot. Um, those are the main three that come to mind. There's plenty though. There's a lot of spots. Like we play at the Lumberyard in Wichita or Mulvane, Kansas, technically, and it's literally like a lumber yard. It's like in the
Oh,
middle of
how
nowhere
cool.
in Kansas,
Wow.
and a bunch of kids come out. It's super fun. We've played there like 6 times, I think. Um, I'm not too picky with venues, honestly. It's mostly the people. So
Mhm. It always
um,
makes a show.
it makes the show a lot better. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, yeah, I mean, for me, like one of the venues that comes to mind is we've played the Milestone Club in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Yeah, that's I've been wanting to play there. Yeah.
Oh, you
I think
you
I
would
think
love it.
I booked us once there. Either Stars or Crushed, but then we had to cancel the tour. Um but
Oh,
yeah, I would love to play the Milestone.
oh, you guys would love it there. They would love you. It's such a great place. I feel like it's history. So for those of you that are not familiar with Milestone, there's just so many bands that have played there, and like the walls are plastered with stickers and set lists, and it's just like it's like you feel like you can feel the history of the building. It's so cool.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's really I don't know, it's such a surreal feeling, like just like thinking about how many acts have played on a stage that you get to play on. I work at
Yeah.
a Great American Music Hall in San Francisco, which is one of the most legendary venues, I think, in the country, if not the world. And every time I'm there, just before my shift or after, I see so many great bands. And I just like realize I'm like, oh, Prince has played here like multiple times, and Robin Williams, and like, Billie Eilish is there, like all kinds of like artists, especially ones I love. And it's such a cool feeling. I think you can feel that in certain venues. Like all of the good vibes and good times that were had, that good energy stays in the venue.
Oh, absolutely. You feel it. You really do feel that for sure. Um, oh, so uh, Amia is asking if you've ever been to Dark Force Fest. Alice played there last year. Dark Force Fest is a festival in New Jersey.
No, that sounds awesome though. Oh, which part of New Jersey?
Parsippany.
Ooh, where is that?
That's
Is that
I'm
north?
so bad with geography, but
Oh, yeah. Like, hold on, let me Google something.
I know.
I haven't been though. No. I would love to go to more festivals. Honestly, I'm trying to go to more that are out here on the West Coast. I'm only 5.5 hours from LA, so I would like to visit more LA and Bay Area or Sacramento shows.
Yeah.
Um, that one sounds really cool.
Oh, and
I don't
to
even know how do you spell this. Parsip.
Parsippany, Parsippany.
Oh yeah, it's a township.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Oh, and Damia and Holly, yes, Alice would love to return to the pie shop. Oh, and Adam, if you ever play the pie shop in DC, it is awesome. It's such a cool venue, and they have pie, like
I would
pie, all
I
kinds
would
of pie.
love that. I have such a bad sweet tooth. Like I will eat. We played Voodoo Donuts in Eugene, Oregon once, and I had a friend who
Oh,
works there, and they just loaded us up with boxes and boxes of like day old donuts, and I lived off of those for like 3 days until I think I was pre-diabetic, and then I had to lay off of them for a bit. Okay,
yeah.
Parsippany, Troy Hills. It's like straight from the Bronx inward inland. I didn't even know New Jersey went up that far. That's kind of crazy. I'm learning something new.
Yes, yes.
But that's awesome. I would love to play DC. I've only been once, and we had a day off, so we just went to the National Mall or whatever and saw the monuments. But
Nice.
DC seems like a really cool city. I would love to experience a show there.
Yeah, we've always just loved the music community there. They've always just welcomed us and made us feel right at home. So highly recommend DC.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's funny because there's certain cities I was sharing that I'm from a small town, and so there's some cities where it's like I you just don't know until you get there what it's going to be like. And DC was like that for us. New York was like that for us, where we just felt really welcome, you know?
That's great, especially big cities like that, you know? Because in my experience, big cities are always the hardest, especially for newer bands, you know, or your first time. Unless you really like just, like hit a home run and like get a good promoter, a good venue, or good locals, or you have a following there already, you know?
Yeah,
It's really cool to have a good show in a big city like that because
yeah,
there's so much going on,
absolutely.
you know?
Yeah, you really never know. And then, that's when you really discover like, oh, they have a thriving music community, like really thriving. So,
Yeah, totally. I'm always super interested. Anytime we tour, I talk to like our friends or the promoters or the bands, and I like to just get the lowdown on how their scene works and like, some problems they face. And a lot of the time they're the same ones that, Albuquerque would face or the Bay. But it's interesting to see the different problems and kind of what causes them, like whether it's like geography or like or you know what's the word like the way the city is ran, they just things you wouldn't think about really, like, oh,
yeah,
is it a red state, a blue state, like different things affect all of it, and it's really
yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. In some of the thriving communities that we've seen, it's like all the promoters are really supportive of each other. So it's not really competitive. It's more like it's all the ships rise together. So they go to each other's shows, they support each other. It's pretty awesome when you get to see that.
Oh, totally, yeah. In Albuquerque I would always share all the shows happening on a day, even if one of them's mine, because like, yeah, it wasn't like competition. It's kind of like, hey, this just go out. As long as people go to a show, it doesn't matter if it's mine or not. It just go to
Yeah,
one, because
yeah.
the more the merrier. It's better. Yeah.
Yeah, that's one thing I've always appreciated about you, and seeing your stories where you're like, "Oh, check out this awesome show," and it might not be yours, but you're so supportive of live music and the live music community, and I think that's really what it's about.
Totally. It's been really funny living here now and sharing shows for Albuquerque because I've still got all my friends out there. And then
Yeah.
slowly I'm getting more friends out here, and like I'm starting to share events out here. But I I laugh because I always have to specify which city I'm talking to. I'm like, oh,
Yep.
Bay homies. They're like, hey, Albuquerque homies, like, go check this out.
A question is about mental health and touring. So it's a known fact that some musicians and artists can get a sense of emotional exhaustion, stress, and more from touring a lot. What are good ways to battle this?
My biggest thing is everyone in the van needs headphones. Like you need headphones, and then communication's a big thing too. You gotta if you wake up, you're not having a good day for whatever reason, even if you don't have a reason, you don't know. You got to be able to tell your bandmates or your crew or anyone, um, like, hey, it's kind of rough day. You mind if I go sit in the back or pop my headphones in, um, and I have mood swings all the time on tour, so like usually I'll just need to be in my own world, listen to my own music, go lay down in the back seat, not talk to anyone for a bit. um as as much as I'm around like social events and I'm a bartender, I'm very introverted, so I get drained so quick on tour. And I need my like little time often. And I sleep in the van every night, and most of that is just to protect our stuff, so we don't get broken into. Um, or at least I can hop out of my underwear and fight someone if I need to. But I get a lot of my alone time then as well. It's kind of nice. I can go to bed if everyone's partying or hanging out. I can retire early and just watch a show, or go to sleep early, listen to music, write, draw. Um, yeah, just the big communication and having some way that you can kind of um make yourself feel better and like, recharge is super important. I know some people that like when you get to a new city, they like to take a walk and they'll just go walk, see everything, and come back feeling great. Sometimes they have food or a coffee. That's a good tactic. But as long as you could just tell everyone what's going on, so aren't worrying the team, and so they can help too. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I toured with mostly men, so you know how men can get kind of just pick on each other for fun, and it's usually fun, but sometimes it goes a little far, like, and it's like, hey, like don't joke about that, or like I'm a little sensitive, and so yeah, uh,
Yeah.
that's all I got. That's I'm constantly looking for more ways to um, help level myself out on tour. But so far that's what's worked the most, I would say.
Yeah, our van is usually pretty quiet. We're all in headphones and actually all of us are introverts, so and we all have to recharge our batteries, so we're actually really cool with giving each other space. Like you might not be right next to each other, but like we're all kind of in our own little space. And then I mean, not that it's always that way, but you do need your times where you're just like in your own little universe for a little bit.
Totally, yeah. I try to
Yeah.
read more on tour, so getting
Yeah.
lost in a book is a great way, just to kind of tune it out. Um, I like I'll stare out the van window. Just, like I'll like I don't know why, but I always stare at like rock formations and I imagine like in like land and just everything. And I imagine like all the people over the centuries or millennia that have been looking at the same mountains or the same rock formations, like back to like indigenous tribes or like settlers or whoever it would be, wherever part of the country we're in. um and it's kind of just like puts the world in this weird uh I get deep in thought about that. I don't know.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's part of the special thing about touring because um seeing that world and like you were saying like hundreds, thousands of years you don't know who's been who's passed and maybe who's had similar thoughts, right?
Right, yeah, yeah. Think
Yeah.
about the future even too, and just like, whoa. And I'm sure like after 10 more years of touring, I'll pass the same mountains and be like, whoa, I was here 10 years ago and I felt this way, or like, I don't know. It's kind of just a trip.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, what are the best ways that people can follow you, support you, all the things?
um Stars don't mean anything on Instagram. That's the main social media we use. um we're pretty quiet right now, but we will be releasing a single before our tour in June. We should hopefully be announcing that tour in April or so. Very stoked for it. It's on the West Coast, Phoenix up through Vegas, Reno, into the Pacific Northwest. So if anyone's out there, we'll be in your area. And my personal is absinthe.party on Instagram. I treat it very much like a personal, but at the same time, I try to, just shout out bands I like. I try to just share more things. And like I've already said, if anyone has any further questions, you can always reach out to me. I'm always down to just chat and talk to people. Um, Stars don't mean anything. It's all one word. We're on Spotify, Tidal, YouTube Music, Bandcamp, everywhere. Um, we have a EP out right now, but like I said, we'll have that single coming soon, and then later this year we'll have the record out.
Awesome. Well, thank you to everyone for hanging out with us, for chatting, for your awesome, thoughtful questions. And thank you so much, Adam, for sharing your amazing self with us, all the
Thank you for having
perspectives
me.
and wisdoms. Yes. Thank you. It's been so great. Like I just again, I just feel like it's been such a cool like parallel journey. I feel like as we orbit and then we reconverge, it's like, well, what have you been up to? And like,
Literally, yeah, like our conversations are literally just exactly like this. We're always
yep.
just talking the same ways. Like I remember y'all are loading up trying to leave after playing Inside Out, and me and you are in the street still just like talking, and we're
Yep.
finally like, oh yeah, we should probably close the bar. Yeah.
Well, such a joy. Thank you all so much. Next week, we are actually going to be having Mark Paradise. He is the amazing promoter behind Communion After Dark. We're going to be playing Absolution Fest in the fall in Tampa, and he's putting that together. So we'll be having him next week. But in the meantime, we hope you have an amazing rest of your week.